Welcome back to the ExecMBA Podcast. I'm Brett Twitty, Director of Admissions for the Executive Formats of the Darden MBA, and I hope you're having a great 2018. In this episode of the ExecMBA Podcast, I'd like to feature a conversation I recently recorded with Amanda Fox. Amanda is a graduate of Darden. She is a member of our GEMBA, that's our Global Executive MBA format, class of 2017, and I recently sat down to talk with Amanda a little bit more about her experience in our GEMBA format and what she learned through the process of being an executive format student at Darden. But before that, I'd like to provide you with a quick admissions update about where we are in the cycle and some next steps if you're interested in learning more about Darden. So we have a deadline upcoming. We will have our next deadline on February 10. Before that, if you're interested in getting some application tips, some insights about our application process and how you might be able to sharpen your application if you're targeting one of our upcoming deadlines, we will have a webinar on the afternoon of February 7th. You can find more information about that on our website, and we also have a blog post about the webinar. We will have class visits in both Charlottesville and Roslyn as well next week, February 8th and 9th in Charlottesville, Roslyn on February 9th, 10th, and 11th. Class visits are always a great way to learn more about Darden's executive formats, experience the case method firsthand. You can stick around for lunch and talk with some of our current students and sort of get their perspectives on the program and perhaps some advice about what you should be thinking about as you identify an executive MBA program that aligns well with your interests and your needs. So next deadline is February 10, but after that, we have a series of deadlines basically every month until the class is full. We will have a March 10 deadline, April 10 deadline, May 10, so on and so forth. There's more detailed information available on our website, but of course, we're always here to help as well. You can schedule a phone conversation, schedule an in-person meeting, what we call an office hour. Of course, join us for the webinar, class visit, and you're also welcome to email us. You can reach us at exec, that's ExecMBA at darden.virginia.edu. Of course, we're always happy to answer questions via email, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to connect with you. As I've mentioned on the podcast before, one of the great things about recruiting for the executive formats is that we really have an opportunity to get to know each applicant really well through the prospective student research process and the application process. And so we hope you'll take advantage of some of these opportunities to learn more about Darden, but also for us to learn more about you. So hopefully our paths will cross either online or in person soon. But without further ado, this is my interview with Amanda Fox. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
All right. So for our listeners at home, tell us a little bit more about yourself. What's your background? How did you decide to come to Darden?
Sure, absolutely. So the majority of my background was in the commercial function. So I moved from an individual contributor role in various functions and then moved into a commercial leadership role with a company now called Gartner, Inc., which is a global research and executive advisory firm. And what led me to pursue my MBA was really my interest and desire to get outside of the commercial function. I wanted the opportunity to learn more about other functions, understand, from a leadership role as I was in the commercial space, how was HR making their decisions? How was finance making their decisions, operations? I had the opportunity to work out of our London office for a few years and was faced with a lot of challenges that I didn't feel overly equipped to take on and was taking more of the learn as I go approach. And that is what brought me to wanting to pursue an MBA.
And how did you decide upon Darden? I remember when, I guess we first spoke, you were living in London when you interviewed. And so how did Darden get on your radar?
Sure. So Darden was on my radar, well, primarily, I would say, first of all, an incredible reputation and through my network, learning about Darden. But when I was doing some research on different schools that I was going to apply to, there were two specific reasons that Darden really stood out to me. First, I would say, is the teaching methodology. As I just mentioned, I was learning by doing for the past couple of years of my career, And I have seen that I personally learn far better through experience than through literature or sitting down for a lecture. And so I knew the case methodology would be a far more impactful academic experience for me. Of course, we always received the tech notes to really understand a concept, but being able to put ourselves in a C-suite shoes and assess a real company challenge and formulate our own solution and being able to debate that in a classroom with other experienced professionals is what really excited me about Darden. And then the second reason was the global opportunity. So Darden had a very unique setup for the GEMBA program. Having had the opportunity to work abroad and work with different clients and team members across EMEA, as I mentioned, was faced with a lot of different cultural diversity challenges and felt like there was a learning gap there that I really wanted to experience very diverse cultures. And so the GEMBA program really fully immersed us into a culture, allowed us to understand the advantages and disadvantages of operating within certain countries, being able to assess the micro and macro economy and how that impacted corporations. So, businesses are only becoming more global, and gaining this global perspective through Darden was a really strong appeal for me.
And you had some interesting classmates. You had a classmate from Kenya. You had a classmate Indonesia, China.
That's right.
For those students who are still learning about, how you learn at Darden and that learning experience, you touched a little bit about the case method. How do you feel sort of those global perspectives or just perspectives generally shape the classroom conversation?
It was interesting. Comparing it to undergrad, where I felt like the professors were talking 80% of the time, we were taking notes and maybe speaking 20% of the time, that dynamic completely shifted, where the professors will certainly open up and teach the initial concepts for the day, but I would say 80% of the time, it's the classroom talking, it's the understanding the different perspectives in the room. To your point, Darden does an amazing job of selecting a very diverse classroom. It wasn't sitting with, everybody that looked just like Amanda Fox with a commercial background. Everybody came from different areas of expertise, different leadership experiences, different cultural experiences. So being able to learn from the perspective of one of my classmates, Nish, who is an entrepreneur in Kenya and has started 2 of his own businesses, was extremely impactful for me, having not done any of that. So I felt like that really added to the experience.
It's been great to see your class, the fact that you went on these trips together, right? That promotes a certain solidarity. It's great to see y'all still talk about stuff that happened in the program on Facebook, right? That's still part of the connection that you share.
Absolutely. And I'm actually class secretary, so it's my job to make sure that we're keeping in touch with everybody. We also have a WhatsApp group that on, I would say, a daily basis, people from all over the world from my class are sharing personal news. One of our classmates just got engaged this past weekend, so of course we were all congratulating him. But also professional successes. As we've graduated just a couple of months ago, we have plenty of people that are moving for new promotions, new job opportunities, and just being able to see the world through their eyes and continue that learning experience is really incredible.
So what are some of the memories that stand out for you from the program? Obviously, you got to go to a lot of great places. You went to, in no particular order, China, India, Western Europe, Brazil.
That's right. Brazil was actually our first one, our first residency, which is always a little bit nerve-wracking the first time. You're going into an entirely new country and not sure what to expect that the residency is going to be like. We were there at a very unique time when there was the Petrobras scandal going on, and the government was under the limelight for potential corruption, and there was protests going on around impeaching the president. And I think the professors really did an amazing job of including the current events going on around us in the classroom. So it wasn't just a standard lecture that they knew that they were going to teach us ahead of time. We were sitting there talking about, how is this potential scandal going to impact their economy? What's going to go on with the exchange rates due to the turmoil that's going on and the concern of the analysts around the Brazilian currency? So it was really incredible to see what was going on in the dynamics, and actually seeing a protest march going across the road from our hotel. So while there's a lot to be taken from the program as it's structured, there's so much more going on that we're able to take in the moment.
So Brazil is back on the global residency schedule for our class of 2020. So the class of 2018 and 2019, they have both gone to South Africa. Some of that change was related to Zika,
right,
and traveling. But everything's okay now. We're going back to Brazil for our class of 2020, and it will be the first global residency once again. So,
fantastic!
And South Africa will be available as a Darden Worldwide course, so an elective for a student who might want to go to South Africa. You can do that still, even as an elective. So, if you were talking to a prospective student who was considering GEMBA specifically. What might you share, or what might you say, oh, here's the reasons why you should think about GEMBA?
Well, I would say, as we all know, business is only going more global. The expectation of leaders in the workplace is to have a global perspective, understand when you're making a decision, how is that going to impact every country, every cultural dynamic? Where do you need to be flexible? Where do you need to remain the same and have continuity within your organization? And I'd say from the GEMBA experience, I don't know where I would have gotten that perspective. Again, having had my own learn by doing experience in London, I think the GEMBA experience has fast forwarded many, many years it would have taken me to gain that different perspective, understand the cultural dynamics and differences in any corporation these days. So I'd say being able to be on the ground, working with companies, understanding the challenges that they're being faced with. Again, it just gives you a very different perspective when you're sitting back in the United States and are probably not being challenged with nearly as many challenges as a company in India or in Brazil or any of these other emerging markets. It's a truly different situation that they're being faced with.
So somewhat related to that, last question. How do you feel like Darden helped you develop as a leader? You obviously completed the program now. You're a few months removed from graduation. When you reflect back on who you were before the program, who you are now, how do you feel like the program affected your perspective?
Sure. So in addition to that global perspective, I'd say looking back prior to the program, I had a lot of a success within the commercial function as an individual contributor and as a commercial leader, but I had very limited knowledge or experience outside of the commercial team. And I feel like the GEMBA program has afforded me the knowledge and, even more importantly, the confidence to take on cross-functional projects, collaborate with cross-functional senior leaders, and really gain that broader perspective that I think would have taken a lot longer for me to gain just through experience.
So your point about confidence is an interesting one because it's something that alumni bring up a lot. When you go through something that's as challenging as Darden, you get out on the other side of it, you kind of feel like you can take on anything. Do you feel like that's the root of your confidence? Is it sourced from some other aspect of the experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say I was on top of the world on graduation day. I felt like I could take on the world. I think the confidence is, it does over those 2 years, being able to discuss your weaknesses and areas that you just don't have a lot of knowledge in or experience in, and leveraging your classmates that may have more experience than you. We really balance each other out. And again, I attribute that to the way Darden selects their students for each class. There's areas that, again, from a commercial mindset that I was really strong in, that I could help somebody else in the classroom that had no commercial experience. Whereas we had other folks there that were IT leaders or had been in human resources for many years, and being able to learn from them, I felt like all of a sudden in 2 years I had just as much confidence as they did, having an entire career within that given function.
It is interesting how much you learn from your classmates, right? That's even the full-time students say the same thing. They're always surprised by how much learning, because your school for most people conceptually is a faculty member, professor telling you what you should know. Obviously at Darden, there's all this lateral learning that happens. Your peers shape your perspective. They bring their experiences, their expertise to class. It becomes part of that discussion, or you're on a learning team or preparing for class. And you have all these sort of offline conversations about things. So it's interesting to hear that's also true to your experience.
Yep.
So any last things you would highlight about Darden, or any advice for prospective students who are thinking about applying, or where to apply?
Yeah, I would say from advice, what I did is I reached out to current and previous GEMBA students prior to applying to the program, just to get my specific questions answered. I think these podcasts are phenomenal. I wish we had them when I was applying, to hear from the voice of a student. But if there are specific questions that you're thinking about as to, the career goals that you have, or what you really want to get out of an MBA program as you're assessing different programs, feel free to reach out to myself. I would say LinkedIn is a great way to do that. Or any other student that may have a similar background to you and is looking to make a shift in their career, or maybe just climb within their career. I was looking for a shift, and I reached out to a number of folks that I saw throughout their background that they graduated from Darden and moved on to something else. So I wanted to understand how that worked for them. So that would be my guidance. Darden is a very tight-knit community for how large it is, and there is something about the Darden way of being open to people, and I've never had anyone turn me down for a question or a coffee or a networking opportunity. Everybody's very open and kind to each other, and want everybody to succeed within the Darden community. So feel free to reach out.
Yeah, it is very true. It almost sounds cliche, but we stress it with prospective students. I mean, the greatest thing about Darden is just how open and responsive everyone is, both current students and alumni. It's always one of my favorite moments of the year is when we have all the new students there and in Charlottesville, and you say, "Oh, how many of you connected with an alum as you were making your decision?" And everybody's hand goes up, and that sort of virtuous cycle of someone helped you make the decision, or someone helped you with your career search, and so you feel like you have to pay it back.
Yeah, you give back. Absolutely, it's expected, and I've never seen any different.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's been great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Amanda Fox, a GEMBA format student in our class of 2017. As always, we sincerely appreciate you tuning in to the ExecMBA Podcast. If there are any topics or suggestions you have for the podcast, please feel free to email us at that's ExecMBA @darden.virginia.edu. And until next time, thanks for listening.